So do you want me to just, where do you want me to start?
I started to try to just write a timeline as to what's happened, like your flight from Hawaii to New York when you had the worst headache of your life, from what I read on your website.
Okay, yeah, that's a good place to start. So I was living in Hawaii on the Big Island with a shamanic community, and I was there for almost a year, but I'd been studying with the shaman for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years before then in Maui, and it changed every aspect of my life. And I traveled the world studying belly dance on my own in India, music, meditation. Got dengue fever twice in India while by myself and nearly died twice from that. And that
Wow.
actually could have led to the cancer in the first place, but my intuition told me to go back to New York after I was in India and save up as much money as I could, so this way I could see the shaman again and do retreats with him and um, just like, study with him because it was so important for me in my heart. So I did that on the Big Island for almost a year. And then one day while working on the farm on the community, my intuition told me that I need to go back to New York and save up. Like I felt awesome studying with the shaman and supporting his mission and the retreats and everything, but it felt like I wanted to have more income and also have my own purpose in addition to supporting the shaman's uh, offering to the world. So I decided to fly back to New York in October 2019. And on the flight, I had the worst headache of my life, and it was actually a minor stroke. And the next day, the left side of my body was slightly paralyzed. So I went to the ER, and in the ER in October 2019, they discovered a huge tumor. It was almost like, I think it was almost 1/3 the width of the brain. It was huge, it was very big. I was very lucky that it didn't, uh, it, well, I was lucky for many reasons. If I had the stroke in Hawaii, I wouldn't have had access to as good of neurosurgeons as New York. So I feel like everything happened perfectly, but that was the beginning of the year-long journey of uh, the brain surgery. And after that, I wanted to do everything holistic that I could, but having stage 4 brain cancer is such a new experience for me. So I decided to do 8 weeks of radiation and chemo. Just I thought that would be the safest route to make sure those cancer cells are killed, even if it kills other cells in the body. I figured I could rebuild. So that was from like November 2019 to the end of January, I think, 2020. The radiation and chemo. So that was quite the experience, very painful. Um, but then I started to have grand mal seizures because the radiation created so much inflammation in the brain and so much stress on the body. And I never had seizures my whole life, so I had started to have seizures. And the only thing that would help prevent the seizures for a few weeks was putting my head under freezing cold water, even though I was taking the seizure medication. So one day I bumped the back of my head on the faucet in the bathtub, and I didn't realize how bad it was. I just thought it was a little bump, but it turns out that it was a cut that stayed open and didn't heal, and I think that's how the infection formed
Hmm.
in like January 2020. So um, see, with the seizures, brain surgery affects the brain, so then it's harder to regulate the heat and the cold, and let alone speaking loudly. Or that's why I have to have my eyes closed now because it hurts so much to look at artificial light. But it's interesting, I could look at sunrise and sunset, and that feels very healing for the brain.
Hmm.
So it's been a learning experience. So the seizures, if I got too hot, I would have these really painful, dangerous seizures. So I was putting my head under freezing cold water, and that helped. But like I said, one day I bumped my head, and an infection formed. So in February 2020, I had another head surgery to open up the head, clean out the head infection, and then heal after that. Am I sharing too much here?
No, I think it's important. Like we're coming up to the point where you had the infection and you're now in the hospital with your surgery for that infection. Was that?
Well, yeah, because in the surgery where they cleaned out the head infection, they didn't take out the plate from brain surgery. I guess they thought they could just clean the infection and they didn't need to take out the plate, but the infection came back maybe like April 2000, or no, June, April or May 2020, the infection came back. So it's September 2020. So since April 2020, every day there's been increasing pain in the head. It's like a buzzing electric shock. Every day it's been worse and worse. So 2 weeks ago, I decided like it's getting so bad that it feels like it's in the skull. It could go to the brain. So I went to the emergency room and it was very clear that surgery was the only way to fully clear out the infection. And so, yeah, that's why I'm in the hospital now, because 2 weeks ago I had surgery to take out the infected plate, clean out the head infection. They had to literally cut out parts of the bone in my skull that were infected. So brace yourself for something a little bit graphic, but I'm going to show you what my head looks like.
Okay.
My eyes are closed, so I don't know what you could see, but that should be a curve with skull. They cut it out.
Maybe if you could turn a little bit more, if you're comfortable to do so. Yeah, now we can see it. Wow. Yep.
So that's my abdomen is on my head, basically. They cut out abdominal tissue that was healthy and grafted it onto the head and stapled it on. And it's so strange for me, but all the doctors keep on saying, yeah, it looks great. It's doing awesome. You're healing perfectly. So it's definitely a practice and just being present and having faith. And so I'm on intravenous antibiotics to clear the infection fully. And then maybe in a month or a month and a half, I'll have another head surgery to put in a new plate in the head. And I think they're going to 3D print skull to replace the skull that they took out. So yeah, that's kind of like the medical timeline.
It's always the point, like when I tell people about, I've only known for about a week now, but when I've told other friends and family members what you've been going through, and I get to the point where I mention that you had an apartment fire in the midst of all of this and lost all of your belongings, that's when they can't even hold back. Like they either gasp or they're just like, it's just too ridiculous. Like, how does this all happen to one person and one lifetime or one short period of time? And you said that you feel in a way like it's all perfect. So I would like to hear, I feel like it must be too, because it's just like the odds, but I don't want to make meaning for you. I want to hear from you. What do you mean by that?
Well, different things. I mean, one, for many years, I would work with different coaches and healers, and I had like a deep feeling in my soul that it's hard to describe. Like it felt like I wasn't truly living even close to my highest purpose. And it felt like, in a sense, it felt like I wasn't even really alive. So for many years, I wanted to create a new life. And so while living in Hawaii, there was a lot of integration, and I never felt more myself, never felt happier, never felt more like in alignment with my path. But when the cancer diagnosis happened, it felt like the most amazing opportunity to have a real death rebirth that I've been wanting, almost like an excuse. I know that can sound a little strange, but it was like, I don't know, it just felt like I didn't consciously plan it, but it just felt perfect to really like create a new life. And I don't want to go through there's been so much pain this past year and challenges and near death many times, and in the ER and hospitals, often by myself a lot, and lots of challenges. even for a few weeks, literally being homeless while trying to heal the head infection, which in a sense was more dangerous than the brain cancer, while keeping seizures at bay. But forget what my point is. But yeah, I feel like, I know it could be easy to say, it could seem like bypassing to say, oh, everything's perfect, it's all part of God's plan. But from the very first moment, that's exactly how it felt. There's still been extreme pain. There's still extreme pain right now, all the time, regardless of the painkillers. But I don't know, it's hard to describe. I've experienced so many miracles this past year that I don't know, it just everything feels like I truly feel happy, and I feel like everything's happening as it should. If that answers
Yeah,
your
it does. It makes sense to me personally too. And I was just thinking about a time that I posted an article about dealing with grief and illness and death, and even common responses that people might have to it. And I had this line in it, and I said common responses that might be hurtful and what might be helpful beyond that. And this one line I said, illness, grief, and dying might not be inherently negative. They might have a meaning beyond what we might be able to comprehend as we're in the midst of them. Because I'm really referring to sometimes people saying that, like, oh, thoughts become things, or you might have had this fear and you might have brought this on yourself. And I personally think that there's like a lot of judgment in that. And I think we're here to make our own meaning of things. And anyways, I mentioned that line because it was deleted from the article by the editor. And I felt like it was the most important line of it all, like to just wonder about that. Maybe they're not bad. Like you're saying that like you feel more like yourself than you have in the past, or you told me that on the phone at one point, and you feel like it is perfect. So and you're not sugarcoating the fact that it's been extremely challenging too, and you're dealing, especially the constant pain. That part I don't really know how you deal with that. If you could comment on both how you deal with the constant pain and how you use this as a practice in presence, I'd love to hear that.
Well, I've built up tolerance to a lot of the painkillers right now, like morphine and uh, Dilaudid, it's called. So it's just, I don't know. Um, I guess from different practices in the past, it's helped me deal with the pain now. Um, yeah, so that's my answer to that.
Different
Uh,
practices like around presence.
yeah, I think so. Different shamanic practices, different plant medicines, different like receiving therapy. Oh, also like, for example, I had a vision of belly dancing while I was in Maui in an ayahuasca ceremony. I think maybe 6 years ago. And then maybe a year and a half after that, I had the opportunity to work with a client in Dubai. And while he was traveling, he said I could stay at his home in India because I helped him so much. So he said I could stay there as long as I want, and he'll help me out with whatever I need. He'll make sure I have it there. And while in India, I remembered the vision of dancing while I was in the ceremony in Maui. So I looked up dance classes, and the very first dance studio I found was Payal's Dance Academy, Payal Gupta. So it's like something out of a movie. I lived there for around 9 months and trained with her after not belly dancing my whole life. So, and while there, I got dengue fever twice, nearly died twice. But the reason I'm sharing that is because um, those experiences helped me, like the training, well, the dengue fever especially, dealing with that pain, that's even more painful than the head infection, dengue fever, having it twice. So that helped me deal with the pain that I'm feeling now. So I'm grateful that I kind of had that training, not just physically, but especially emotionally and psychologically. Um, oh, and then also, I know I'm kind of jumping around,
It's okay.
um, but like, I don't know if this happens with other people near death or with um, cancer diagnoses or other things. But right when that happened, it's almost like a flashback of all the out of integrity actions and all the fears I had and all the times I escaped who I am. It's like all of those I remembered instantly, and it was no surprise why that would manifest in the form of a tumor. Like all the times I was critical of myself, all the unhealthy food choices I made. So that was in the beginning. So that kind of took some time to like forgive myself and make amends to people that I feel like I hurt or I acted out of integrity. But then it's like that was 11 months ago. So then there came a point of, well, okay, am I gonna beat myself up, or am I gonna have to suffer for the rest of my life just because of mistakes in the past? So I guess that's another thing that helps me endure the pain, because I haven't done things that are terrible, but just like, I don't know, I feel like many times I ran away from my gifts and I could have shared them more. So, in a sense, like this is the result of fear. But at the same time, like it's a very strange thing, because I feel truly happy now, and I feel like this is the most amazing opportunity. Like I'm assuming and putting the energy towards the fact that I'm going to live and heal, and like what a great experience, so that I could help people and offer even more of love. And when I attract my soulmate and partner, there'll be an amazing, uh, like it's an amazing training right now to prepare for my soulmate and to prepare for my community that I'm going to attract and prepare for my business offering. So it's kind of like, I call it the shamanic paradox, experiencing many different realms at once and finding the like the beauty and the truth in all of them. So kind of exhausting myself here. So that's kind of
Okay.
what I'm experiencing.
But yeah, again, at any point, let me know if you want to pause or stop. We can always do a part two, part three. Um, but I do want to respond to what you said, because this might not be how you're feeling now, like out of integrity, or that you might have had, some unhealthy choices in your life or not been authentic in some way. And that part, it does make me sad to hear. And it's something I've heard from a lot of other people going through health challenges, and something I've dealt with myself with going through health challenges. And I have found personally that not one set of, lifestyle choices or anything like our food or our mindset leads to any measure of health, a 100%. It's not like, oh, as long as we like eat, like you always hear stories on both ends. Somebody who's incredibly unhealthy living into the, to be 100 years old, or somebody who's, makes all the right choices, or is only 1 year old or 5 year old. And so I just, when it comes to the guilt that can be associated with all of this, and the making of meaning of things, like, it's just something I like to just be more in the mystery of, than coming to a conclusion about it, about what it all like might mean. I personally am feeling less like it has to do with, we did bad things, so now something bad is happening to us. Just personally, but it sounds like you might feel differently now than you did 11 months ago, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I do. But now it's kind of just lots of practices every day, because no matter how much integrity or strength or courage or perseverance or faith or positive attitude, there are these 3D limitations every moment that I bump up against, whether it's the pain or just the fact that I have a PICC line in my arm with antibiotics going into it, or the fact that I'm going to have another head surgery in like a month and a half, probably, let alone the external stuff that's happening in the world. So, uh, yeah, that's yeah, and also like I feel like my experiences are gonna benefit me and my friends, and uh, and I feel like it can benefit a lot of people. But these past 11 months, there's been lots of challenges where sometimes literally I'm in so much pain, the body is shaking, especially recently. So it's kind of at times comical. It's like I feel like I have so much love to share and ways I can help people, but then I have to just let go of all of it and be completely present, and then kind of dust the or brush the dust off my shoulders, get back up, and then do what I can in the next moment. And this has been repeating for months and months. And sorry, nurse was coming in. So yeah, it's very interesting facing death every day. Like from the sometimes I would forget because the head infection was so painful. There was literally pus and blood coming out of it, but I thought I could heal it with other modalities. But it just got too far, so I needed surgery. So, and that's even besides the stage 4 brain cancer. So yeah, it's just very interesting. Death could come anytime. Um, but at the same time, the dreams in my heart are still there. So it's like, how do you balance that? And so that's what I'm having to learn in real time. So
I
thanks
want
for doing
to
all that.
ask, like you're talking about, what you might offer others like now or in the future. And I sent you a message about this yesterday, but I really do feel like by being present, I do think you're a person that very much is and owns who they are. Um, and I feel like you're, like you said, like already contributing to the world in a positive way through being present and being who you are. I mean, you've been on my mind very consistently, and it's been really inspiring for me as a way to kind of keep things in perspective and know that you can feel more than ever, and you can use your practices in presence, and that you're able to deal with certain things that I just wonder at what point, when it's also unknown, it's like how does a person deal with this? How do they endure this? And you're an example of somebody who is. Um, so I personally feel inspired by that. And do you have, like, you've been talking about death a bit, which is one of my favorite subjects. I don't know if you both had any intuitive senses that you might go through something major at this point in your life, or if you had, I think certain things we're probably just not supposed to know. But like, or if you have any intuitive senses for like where this might be taking you, like you mentioned yesterday on the phone, like more life, death is coming soon. Or do you feel like it's a mystery to just be respected as a mystery on both of those? And yeah.
Mm, well, definitely feels like some sort of training that I'm going through. Like it feels, personally, I could feel when things don't feel right. Um, like if I've acted out of integrity, I like it doesn't feel right. Or if I've been in an environment around people or situations that don't feel right. But everything has felt right, even the apartment fire, which I caused, which I'm
Oh, I didn't know that.
at all. Yeah, I had a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in the apartment, and a friend was using it with her dog, and it was not smart, but like somebody was going to use it after, and I wanted it to be extra clean, and so I left the oxygen on a little bit longer than normal. And then I was just sitting on the couch in the living room waiting and meditating, and just like my ears were ringing because there was so much pain that day. So I forgot that the oxygen tank was still on, and I lit sage and like saged above the area, and a little piece fell in the chamber, and the whole thing just like blasted into black smoke and fire. And like instantly I had to like think, am I okay? How am I going to put this out? If I cover it with a blanket, is it going to go back into the oxygen tank? Is it going to explode? So I was trying to unplug everything as quick as I could, but the whole room kept on filling up with black smoke and fire. And then I was thinking, and all this happened really quick. I was thinking, well, how much longer should I stay before I get burnt or die? So I just left, called 911 immediately, and knocked on all the neighbors' doors and told them what's happening and to get out. So yeah, that was a very interesting mistake. It was completely my fault, but at the same
It
time,
might have been, but like I wanted to cut you off really quickly. I was just like holding back laughter at the ridiculousness of all of that, and that you were doing every like you were like lighting sage and trying to heal yourself with hyperbaric oxygen and help other people out. You know, like it might have been a mistake, but talking about the perfection again, like you weren't trying to do anything. You didn't have any bad intention there at all. And I'll let you finish, but I was just holding back. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't know that part.
yeah, kind of embarrassed about it. That's why I didn't tell you when we spoke that it was my fault. Yeah, even before then, like that day, there was somebody else who needed the hyperbaric chamber. So the idea is that it would be at my space, somebody else financed the chamber, and it would help me heal, and we were going to help other people heal, and they could donate to my healing. If they didn't have money, they could just come in for free. So
Mhm.
this woman came in, and she received healing, and I was in extreme pain, but it just felt right to be with her that day. And then afterwards, somebody else came in, like I said, my friend with the dog. And so, um, yeah, it's not an excuse, but it was just, yeah, I was trying to just hold space for other people and prepare the chamber for somebody else. So it would be nice. Um, but yeah, not to make excuses, but for an apartment fire to happen with an oxygen tank in the apartment, the way it did was like the most perfect way possible. No one was hurt. No other apartments were affected. Um, it was just a very interesting thing how it happened. So it's just another example of what's been going on the past 11 months of these challenges, but also miracles. Um, but yeah, after the apartment fire happened, the apartment complex gave me and my housemate, at the time, he was my housemate, a temporary apartment till the end of the month, until the end of August. But I couldn't find another home until the end of, or at the beginning of September. So I was pretty much homeless, living in Airbnbs while doing intravenous vitamin C for the infection, while trying to find a home. So at times it was kind of comical, like you just said, like, this is a very unbelievable experience. And what I've wanted to do the past 11 months, but there's been so much pain. Like there's even pain now talking, but it's important. And I want to continue, but there's been so much pain looking at a screen and typing with the pre-seizure auras that I haven't even been able to document things. Only starting, I think a few weeks ago, I've been documenting what's been happening in my life, but um, that's something I really want to do because I feel like, well, two things. I feel like that can be helpful for people. I think we each have a beautiful story to share with people. And then also, I really believe that, like, I feel like I'm going to heal and I'm going to create a beautiful life. And um, I don't know, I just have a strong sense of that. So, so
Yeah.
I don't know what your question was, but
It was about, yeah, kind of intuitively, like, where do you think this might land you? And yeah, so I think that does answer part of it, that you feel like it's a journey to healing potentially. You also mentioned like the fact that it might be the thing that you know, you die of too, like you might hold both like that, those possibilities simultaneously.
oh, right. Yeah, I feel like it's training. It's kind of like purification for the old energies and training for the beautiful life that I'm moving into. And facing death every day in a very real way. It's also, I'm always tell myself, like, I believe that fear and stress and being negative and let alone harming other people, that it feeds dark energies in the universe. And I've committed to not doing that no matter what. So even if I die tonight, I'm going to make that uh, as beautiful as I can. And in the beginning, it was very hard because I felt like, oh, I'm useless. I'm not helping anyone. What am I doing with my life? I'm just in pain all day. I'm kind of like a loser. That's how it felt right after I was diagnosed. But I really feel like I'm I feel like I can, and we can add positive energy to the planet. Even a conversation now, if no one sees it, I feel like it's adding positive energy to the collective. And so that's what I've experienced these past several months. There's been a lot of alone time, you could say. So
I'm sure, like even in your interactions with others, with these nurses that you might not know, or somebody who just comes in for a moment, I think, I've heard people say in their people who have claimed to have near-death experiences and have a life review where they see their life flash before their eyes and realize some of the without judgment either, without like, oh, you did something bad and like this is how it made this person feel, but it's like without any judgment of like you did something bad. It's like you didn't know what you were doing and you might have caused pain to this person, and then this other moment you caused you inform somebody's life journey in such a positive way, but like that could be from like a smile or like a response or just like a loving energy or a presence. And so I like to wonder about the mystery of that, with you being where you are and not being able to go really anywhere or share anything, like you said, even like do all these things that you wanted to do or you thought was like your purpose. I wonder if in all these small little actions, they're not small, that you are informing the people around you in positive ways.
yeah, that's true.
Because I doubt that you're a typical patient that they're like running into. I mean, I used to work in the hospital, and you meet a whole range of people, and some people feel justified to be total dicks because of what they're going through. And cause more trauma and pain and problems in the world. Again, maybe not like knowingly, consciously, but like they might feel justified in doing that. And you are probably not their typical, patient that they're running across. And yeah. I wrote down a question that Oprah asks some of her guests. What do you think happens when we die?
Well, I think different things happen. I think we go back where we came from.
Oh, you're paused now. I can't hear you. Maybe we're not meant to know. I think your internet just went out.
So, are you still there?
You were just paused for pretty much since the moment I asked the question.
Oh, you were paused too.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't see your video moving, but I can hear your audio now.
Oh, I see. I have to sign into this. I think it'll work in a few seconds.
Okay. Interesting timing that it would pause, though.
How is it now?
Now you're moving again.
I'm moving.
Okay. Yes.
So yeah, I feel like just from my limited experience that there are angels or energy beings to guide us to the next stage, whatever that is. And I also feel like I think Pat Rodegast, she used to channel Emmanuel, and she used to work with Ram Dass, and they would travel together, and she would channel Emmanuel, and Ram Dass would give his teachings. And Emmanuel said that something to the effect that no one will die a moment early or a moment late than they're supposed to. So that's helped me kind of be more present. And like release the guilt and all this stuff and feel like I have to, I don't know. But yeah, I feel like also in my situation in the beginning, before the first surgery, I didn't want to come back, and I was very upset with the universe that I was like, wait, why am I back here? I do not want to be back here. This is not good. So
wow.
each head surgery since then, I've just made presence the practice, to be honest. Yeah, so after the last surgery 2 weeks ago, um, after anesthesia kicked in, it was like I was awake for a few moments after that, and I saw angels all around me, as if each of the nurses and the doctor was an angel, and we were communicating with each other. And I told them, I said, "Am I out yet? Am I out yet?" And they said, "Oh, it's okay. It's gonna be okay." So that was a very interesting experience. Kind of, I don't know, helped show me that we're never alone. I know it's kind of cliche, but I really believe that we're never alone. We each have angels and support from the universe, even if no other humans are there. So I guess that helps me deal with the pain. Sometimes there's so much pain at night, even if I take the pain medication. So I'll just ask my angels to like cuddle with me. So,
Does it work?
would you say?
Does it work?
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
I
But
have
yeah,
more.
it's like a, oh, sorry.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
every day, it's like a very interesting balance of taking responsibility and being, um, like being responsible and creating my own reality, and then also feeling like I need the most support that a person could need, almost, I guess, besides. I'm sure that I know there are worse situations, but it's like a balance of extreme strength and all of that, and then also being open to receiving love and support. And so that's something I've kind of had to learn recently.
I like that you mentioned the receiving piece because I think that it's somewhere where there's a big gap in our kind of like Western culture about the honor and receiving from another person, and then we tend to discount it, and we think like if we're giving in some way, like that means something, but we tend to forget about I call it like I believe it's more like the feminine side of being able to just simply be with a person. Like if I were by your side right now, there's probably nothing I could do to, take your pain away or really make anything better, but I believe in the power of just like simply sitting with a person. And I felt the power of that when I was in the hospital bed myself, and believed more in the power of that once I was there. And I think, like you're saying, you're being forced to be present and be. And I just think there's more to that than we tend to give any credit for, unfortunately. And it kind of goes with the other ways we discount the feminine sides of life and
Yeah.
feminine being.
Well, it's definitely given me more compassion for myself and for other people who are experiencing pain and suffering. And I've done different forms of teaching, like yoga and other things, and I've given massage and coaching and healing. And but I'm praying that I'll be able to heal, because now I'll have more compassion and more experience to help other people. Even just the simple act of being touched. I haven't been touched much this past year. Um, Not complaining, but it's just that's how it's been. And um, yeah, like it's been a good learning experience for what people really need. Like I feel like we need love and connection, and I felt like that since the beginning, 11 months ago. That besides the medications or even holistic approaches, the thing that I needed most was love and nature and community. And I haven't had that a lot, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for being honest about that. And I want to challenge you again that like there's nothing more that you like need to do to be contributing. I want to bring that up again. I really feel like you already are. And there's nothing you need to kind of turn to be able to offer more. But yeah, I want to leave space for that as well too. And I like that you bring up, the idea of touch, and that's something that's worried me most about this whole time with the coronavirus is that like many people brought this up, but it's like, what about people who are dying or people who are, ill that can't have any visitors and are void of that touch, or that just the fact, even for people who are up walking and talking and aren't in hospitals, that's that we've been separated in this way. And I feel like it's going to have, that part is probably going to have greater, I don't want to bring up anything like really political about it, but like that might have worse implications than a virus might. I worry about the effects long term if we continue to practice that isolation.
Yeah. I haven't gotten, it's kind of funny because the stage 4 brain cancer and head infection and seizures and radiation and chemo, I haven't had one sniffle or cough. Well, I guess I coughed a few minutes ago from something I drank, but no fever, no sneeze, no fever, nothing. I've been in hospitals with people with supposed COVID. So it's just very interesting. In a sense, I feel very healthy. It's like all of the everything, the stress, the fears, all the stuff from childhood, it's all went to that tumor. But otherwise, I feel very healthy.
And
So,
it's amazing too that you're able to like hold a conversation and remember things and completely seem to be intact in your memory despite having a plum size, from what I read, brain tumor. Yeah, despite that, and it taking up that much room, like, yeah, inside. Well, I know you had most of it removed, but still, kind of incredible. I think we could probably, if I ask you more questions, it's probably going to take a while. How are you feeling energy wise? Should we
energy
continue
feels
or do?
good.
You feel
What?
okay? Do you want to continue or do a part 2 or both?
Either way is fine. I mean, there's lots of pain, but it feels important to have this conversation with you.
Is there something anything that you've gained through what you've been through that you want others to know that you haven't already said?
It's a good question.
I also had the question of what are the most important things in life to you? I can just throw those both out there. You want to do anything with them?
Well, yeah. I feel this energy. I call it my unique vibration. It's like an energy I've felt since I was a child. And it's manifested in different forms when I've felt in alignment, like through art and music and dance and other energies. But because of unresolved trauma from childhood, I would always like escape that energy and be self-critical and in a sense hurt myself. But over the years that became more and more integrated, and now I feel that energy all the time. It feels like a vibration. It's hard to describe, but it's similar to plant medicine feeling, but without the plant medicine. So for me, that's the most important thing, following that energy.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. It's not quite like an archangel thing, but it's meaningful for me, and I feel like it's been guiding me. So the challenge for many years has been like almost getting frustrated with myself for not manifesting that love and that energy more. So this past year, I've kind of been forced to just let go of that and just trust that it'll happen.
I've been wondering something lately that I think sort of relates to what you're bringing up here. I mean, first of all, I think what you said is just completely profound, to be feeling that energy and to, maybe we're all having that challenge of trying to be ourselves and all the stuff in this world that gets in our way. And I wonder if in the end or in the now, if it matters just as much. We think about like being kind to others and bringing that presence to others, but like what if it's just as important for us to have that for ourselves, even as we're going through, noticing that we might not be able in the moment to be fully ourselves, or get over the trauma of our past and all of that. Like what if it's just as important to have that compassion for ourselves? And I think it might be the hardest one to remember. We can like maybe skip ourselves and say, oh, I should be somewhere else, I should be doing better. than I am. And that might have a purpose too, to kind of keep us going. But at the same time, I think just, yeah, creating more of that space for compassion for ourselves and in our journey.
Yeah, that's a good point. Somebody told me a few weeks ago, like something like to stop running away from the pain. So he suggested something like parts work, where you can communicate with different parts of yourself. And so I did a lot of writing, like writing out the different parts and even renaming the pain into, I think I called it Saint Presence. So instead of calling it pain, I would just call it Saint Presence and like have a conversation. So yeah, thanks for kind of reminding me about that, because um, yeah, it's like um, for me, all of these different experiences has it's like a different being. Oh, and this person suggested that I try to unite all of those different voices so that they're all working together, even the pain and the dreams in my heart and all the fears, try to unite all of them. So that's it's kind of like the inner work. Some people call it shadow work, I think. So that's what I've been trying to do. And I figure if I could do it in these extreme situations, then I'm trusting that that positive energy will still be there after the body heals. So that's what I've been trying to do.
And even as you like share that experience with others, you know, because we can have like a lot of excuses as to like um why we might, I guess you could say, stay stuck. Again, like I don't want to shame anybody or like myself, but when we can compare to the extreme of situations that you're in, um, I think that that's a profound tool for transformation. Like whenever I can remind myself that like somebody's going through something difficult and has excuses to give up than I do, but they're not. Whatever give up means.
Yeah, kind of to
So what do you
answer
think
more.
are the most important things in life? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to answer more quickly about your question. Like, yeah, sometimes I have to just forget about everyone else and everything else and just be present with like the pain and the challenges and tell myself that that's okay. Because I guess there's still some of the old program of like, um, yeah, just wanting to help more, create more, offer more. Um, so yeah, I'm just working on that. Um, so what was your
Mm-hmm.
question? What are the important things in life?
Yeah, maybe that's changed recently for you, or maybe it hasn't, but
Hmm.
yeah.
You mean for me or just like in general for people?
Mm,
Or both?
thinking like for you, but hoping it, yeah, just anything that comes to mind for you. And it doesn't have to be something like profound or like, you know, like well thought out or anything, but just, I mean, I'm considering everything that you're going through and contemplating death and suffering and being in the midst of pain. Like, what do you think really matters most?
Yeah. Well, I think having some sort of relationship with death is a really healthy thing. Like we can each find our own way to do that. But it's been very, I guess, like liberating for me to kind of be forced to face death and use that energy to let go of other things that I might not need. So I think that's important. Um, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, I think that that's really important too. I mean, you're a reminder. I mean, I don't even know like how old you are, but you're not old and you're going through this. And it's so easy for us all to think that we're immune to all of these kinds of suffering in life and illness. And um, on some level, I think we just tend to put off death and act as if it's like never going to happen. But I think that actually impedes our life in certain ways. And so I think you can help us all to like use this as a practice that our health is guaranteed to last a certain amount of time, and we kind of know when we might go through a challenge like the one you're going through. And you're somebody who I know has like seemingly like you refer to like doing certain things in your life that you feel are out of integrity, or like not eating well at certain times in your life. But like, just for me, like being in community with you on Maui and seeing you around, I mean, you're like the epitome of like health and wellness and self-growth. And I would also say like being yourself. And so yeah, again, like I don't think we can fully make sense of any of these things, but I think yeah, we can all like, use your story as inspiration for our own, and using death as a teacher in a positive way.
Yeah.
And
I really feel like other people go through similar things. So kind of like the idea, if somebody invents something in one part of the world, then at the same exact time, somebody independently will invent the same thing. So I kind of feel like it's the same thing if we have challenges, or if we're going through growth in certain ways, that we're not alone in that. So that's what I've tried to remind myself of, that I'm contributing to the collective consciousness in my own way, and that we're each kind of going through our own growth and challenges. So I feel like that's a very real thing. Even like me and you, like our generation, we kind of talked about this, how we're clearing family lineage stuff. So I think that's important for people to be able to see signs of what's happening in their life and how it relates to the bigger picture. I think that's helpful to be able to do that.
you're making me think of a friend who was telling me about this incredible dream she had, where she was dying in the dream, and she got this message that it was something about how, something I thought was really amazing. Like, we think dying makes us less of ourselves, but it takes away from who we are, but it makes us more of who we are. And she said, well, maybe I heard that, in a quote at another time in my life, or, maybe I heard it from somebody else. And I said, well, maybe if you looked up that quote, you'd find it on the internet somewhere and somebody else said it. But I think that you came to that conclusion. It's like, as you talk about like people, having these experiments in different parts of the world, and it happens all the time, really. And it's like, maybe what we're coming to, whether it's like through science or business or philosophy, these different conclusions we come to might be coming from the same source, and that's why they pop up in areas. And so I said, like, maybe that was coming from somewhere through something in your dream. And when you mentioned suffering, and like, I think there's a lot of unnecessary kind of judgment and pain, again, that comes from comparing our suffering to another person's. And we say like, oh, well, with what I'm going through with COVID is nothing compared to what Ethan's going through. But it's like, well, there's like still the source of pain that's similar and the same. But yeah, that could bring us down a whole nother rabbit hole. I want to know, before I ask you if there's anything else you want to share, how can we support you?
Thanks. Well, I've had kind of a unique experience with the brain cancer, and kind of not having the most ideal living environment with my mother and stepfather in New York. And I love them. They help me immensely, and we have a good relationship, but it's just like I had to leave there kind of last minute and went to live with my dad in Charlotte, thinking that would be better because we had a good relationship over the phone, but in person it's just a lot of old stuff came up, and I just came to the point where it wasn't a supportive environment for my cancer healing and the infection. So I ended up leaving my dad's place and went to a hotel, like I told you the other day, and could have had a seizure by myself while in extreme pain and a head infection. And through the shaman I've been studying with in Hawaii, one of his students and I, we became friends, and she connected me with somebody in Asheville. So I ended up moving into Asheville. So the reason I'm sharing that is because this whole year I haven't really had community per se. I've been pretty much on my own, or with my mom and stepfather, or my dad and his wife, or the person I was living with in Asheville. And he was able to do what he could, but it's kind of a big ask for somebody to take care of somebody else with cancer, and they have their own life. So I guess, it's not like, to attract community, we just do what we love and meet people who are doing similar things, or we offer our work to people, but I haven't been doing that, so I haven't really attracted community. So as far as help, like, a friend created this website called ethansangels.org. I haven't even been able to edit it because of the pre-seizure auras and the fact that I can't edit the website on my phone. So I don't know. It's like, I want community. And I have community in Hawaii, in the shamanic community, but they're in Hawaii. So I don't know.
You could maybe use more physical, like, are you able to have visitors where you are with the whole coronavirus thing?
Yeah, just one per day. Yeah.
Do you want that?
I
Do you
wish
want people to visit you in the hospital?
I wish I had another one of me that was healthy. Yeah, I mean, visitors, I'm okay, like, with alone time. I guess some things that would help is somebody who's able to help update the Wix website, because it's very hard for me to
Yeah.
look at a computer. And right now I have the phone right now, which is can't even edit the website. So yeah, I don't know. I know that's not a very clear answer.
No, I think that it is. There might be somebody that is very skilled in that has a computer and has some, or maybe if they're even not incredibly skilled in it, maybe it's easy enough if somebody has like a full working computer and some time and wants to help, that's they can assist you.
Also,
I
it's
think a
like,
really good example.
yeah,
And
sometimes I wonder, because I've been so positive and so strong and like don't complain at all, that I don't know, it would help to have more money coming in from the GoFundMe. So I'm just trying to think of how to go about doing that, because when I traveled the world for a few years, kind of let go of a lot of old friendships and relationships. And if I had thousands of Facebook friends, things would probably be a lot different. So I'm just trying to trust that everything's happening perfectly.
but I think that's a great example of how somebody might help. I mean, I heard of somebody recently raising money for a person through putting a limit even to what they could offer. They just said, you don't have to give too much, but if anybody could just give, like $25 and cap it at that, for people to know that their money would be going towards something positive and that it would matter even if it's not a lot, even that.
Right. Yeah, I guess sometimes I do get a little overwhelmed. I'm usually pretty centered and stay positive, but yeah, even as far as answering your question, sometimes that feels a little overwhelming. Like,
Great job.
I guess sometimes I feel like I've had to endure so much that I'm just gonna stay in enduring mode. But to have a supportive community would feel really good. It's like how to go about that from this position it's been challenging.
I think it's okay to not really know how to ask for that. I love that you put out the idea of community, because I think in reality people actually really love to give, and that it helps them in certain ways. I think with the way our whole kind of society and culture like tends to be constructed, it's hard for us to have like time and space to give. But I have heard of people doing it in ways that are more so out of the box, like coming up with caregiver pods. Like say you were living in an apartment in Asheville, like people could donate their time, maybe a couple hours a day, so it's not one burden to one person, to be able to have some kind of platform for like then I'm trying to think of what the website is. I think it also has the word angel in it, but where you can post like if you like need food, money, caregiving time, and have people kind of like, you know, be able to show up for practical amounts of time, if that's something that you might need in the future. But yeah, it might be overwhelming to go into all that right now, because it goes into like changing the world and our structures and our way we do things. But I think and people might even have ideas themselves. Others might.
Yeah. See, the shaman I've been studying with, he says he has a lot of friends in Utah, like some sort of community there. But I have to heal up to a certain level first where I'm at. And then another challenge has been even when I was in Asheville recently, a lot of people would say, well, who is this person? Like, why isn't his family helping? How did he get in this position? Why aren't more people helping? So in a sense, it's almost like too unbelievable that, kind of like you said, that all of this is happening to one person. But I haven't even been able to type or make videos of this whole experience because there's been so much pain. It's like the longest I've been able to talk for in a really long time. I'm gonna have to try to sleep after this.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
that's
just,
you, right?
I don't know if that makes sense what I just shared.
I was gonna say that like that's part of what I really like I think what you said is so important, because like you're a person who lives your life and I guess a way that's similar to me, but different than maybe like the majority, where you know, you've traveled and like you've lived many different places and you've followed your intuition and you've trusted in certain ways, and you haven't had a whole like laid out plan, or you know, gotten married or had kids and said, I want to make sure like somebody's there to take care of me. And like I can totally relate to that. And I think that's why it hit me so much. It's like, well, what about for people like us? I mean, I think it's hard for anybody. Like there's this big question with older adults. It's like with time and when we need help, like what do we do? Because even these days, like nobody wants to live with anybody else. No, you know, people are living their own lives. They don't really want to care for somebody else or be taken care of by somebody else. So I think it brings up a lot of really important questions about how do we then care for each other? Because I notice at the same time that there is this void in us, because we do want to care for others, and there are others who live similarly, or even if they don't, you know, maybe if they're on a completely different journey, but they have time to give. I think it's something we're capable of, and it's just being really human about us that feels good when we can.
Yeah.
We can give in some way.
Yeah. When I was in the temporary apartment after the apartment fire, the person who I was living with, he had a friend and he was going through a lot of challenges and he needed a place to stay that night. And I think he was living in his car, and it turned into, I think like 2 weeks he was there until the end of August. I don't want to say names, but basically he was just having a lot of challenges with drinking alcohol and smoking too much pot. So I was in pretty extreme pain while he was going through these things. It was not physically violent. Otherwise, I would have told him to leave. But for me personally, like, I feel like what you just shared is like, we're here to help each other. And so still being present with him. And that's something I'd love to see in the world, where we can show more love and kindness to each other, regardless of differences. I don't know why I shared that, but
right, you're talking about being, yeah, like you're talking about like continuing to kind of like give like love and presence anyway when you're maybe on the receiving end of like needing more help. And it also brings up the idea of like not everybody might be, you know, capable of giving like that person.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, maybe hitchhiking is going to come back in this country. So we might be forced to show more love and help each other, but hopefully we could do it sooner rather than later. Um, yeah.
I know. I think like certain things that were normal in Hawaii, like hitchhiking, and I'm trying to think of other examples of like just more open communication. Especially when I was living in a community on Big Island, like we talked about things that are normally swept under the rug and cause bigger issues in the end. And I just thought like there's so many examples, or just dancing, or just yeah, being more like loving or giving people hugs randomly, like all this stuff that sounds very, you know, woo woo hippie like, but it's just like, well, why not? Like we have this life. Like these are some really good examples of ways that we can live. And I think it's not just like, oh, we want to, you know, take from others and it's just going to suck them dry and make them not feel good. It's like, no, it does, I think, feel really good when we can. And that might be the very answer to a lot of the issues we're having now with the separateness that we're experiencing and this loneliness, that we do need to provide for others more, because it does give to us in certain ways. Not that many of us like have the, again, with the way things are. I'm not saying it's an easy thing, but I just believe we're capable of living in a new way. And maybe that's part of where we're going with all this. But I will let you talking for like an hour and 10 minutes. And I know it's like a lot of energy. Yeah, I really appreciate your time and for you sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it hurts so much.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, so anything else before you go? I think you should just go to bed and not say anything else, but if you feel compelled.
No. Do you have, I don't even know if we discussed this, but is this for some sort of project you're working on?
No, when we first discussed it, you said, well, you know, I want to update my website. Maybe you could interview me and you could post like, and, you know, you could type it out and share with others. And I was thinking, from what I know now, people like to see videos. It's easier to take in, and we could just post this somewhere if we wanted to, you know, like on Facebook or.
Right. Oh yeah, because I wanted to have,
Yeah.
it's one thing for me to share what's happening, but it might be helpful to have like an outside perspective and questions that other people might have. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, it might be helpful if you think of any
Yeah,
other
and
questions.
we post, people have questions or comments or to do
Yeah.
this again. I'd love it. I really appreciated your time, and I'm so glad we're again. All right, you rest well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Aloha.
Bye.
Bye.